Customer demands my personal cell number and blames me for him losing his job. I work as a claims adjuster for auto accidents. A customer filed a claim after hours, and I follow up with him first thing this morning. I have no info on the vehicle other than what he reported, and I inform him there is a possibility of it being a total loss. He immediately jumps down my throat and tells me he doesn't want his car to be a total loss, and he doesn't want me to have it moved to another location for an in-person inspection. I start to discuss an alternative with him when he starts cursing at me and berating me, constantly interrupting me, telling me to just pay the claim. If it were that easy of a job, I'd be paid less, and my job would be a hell of a lot easier. I explain that per his insurance agreement, we have to inspect the vehicle before I can make a payment for his claim, and we need to see if it is going to be a total loss or reparable. He continues to be an ass, so I inform him that I will disconnect the call and try talking to him again when he has regained his composure. I hang up and go into a meeting, and he proceeds to call our customer service line over and over and over. He harassed a total of 4 women and refused to end the call until I accepted his call. I explained I was in a meeting and wouldn't be out for at least another 30 minutes or so. He continued to stay on the line with them for a few more minutes before hanging up and calling customer service again. I finally have a chance to call him back, and I explain that we can try to work with his shop in having them submit photos so we can do a preliminary check to at least see if the car is a total loss or not. He tells me he sent me photos from the night before. I explain that there were no attachments to the emails he sent me and that we need very specific photos to have the most accurate review. He proceeds to tell me it is my job to call the shop and request them, which is what I told him at the start of the call anyway. He then demands my cell phone number. I explain that I don't have a work cell phone. He states he wants my cell phone to be able to reach me over the weekend. I informed him I will not be providing that info to him. He demanded it a few more times before stating he wanted to talk with my supervisor. I stated she was already informed of the situation and would be reaching out to him when she is able to. I am not allowed to give out her contact info. He tells me that I need to have her call him immediately. I remind him that she is my supervisor and I cannot dictate her schedule. He proceeds to try to keep me on the phone until his demands are met. I inform him that I am going to disconnect the call if there is nothing further to discuss, and he ends the call. I called the shop, and they also gave me attitude stating that I was keeping a good man from his job and that I shouldn't be wasting his time like this. I asked if they could email the photos to me just so that I can get it done, and they say they will. I have an uncommon last name, so I made sure to spell it out for them multiple times since it is part of my email address. 2 hours before I leave for the day, I still don't have the photos. I text the customer and let him know, and he told me he would call them. 5 minutes before I'm supposed to leave, I call the shop again and don't get an answer or option to leave a message. I text the customer to let him know that photos aren't received yet, and we won't be able to move forward on his claim until Monday. He starts blaming me for working in a different time zone, stating it isn't fair that I work 3 hours ahead of him. I explain that I don't work 3 hours ahead of him, I'm just 1 hour ahead, and the shop had all day to send me the photos needed. He now states that since he doesn't have a rental, didn't purchase the coverage, he is going to be fired on Monday, and it's all my fault. I offer to set him up with a discounted rental, and he tells me he doesn't have a rental company in his area, but it's still my fault for him losing his job. Goodness gracious. I'm so sorry to hear that. You mean to tell me that your employer is so heartless as to fire you for missing a workday unexpectedly when it's your first occurrence/infraction with them? You may want to contact your State Department of Labor then. He tells me I should just pay the claim, and I'm holding up his claim for no reason to make life difficult for him. I wonder what he thinks happens to adjusters who don't follow due diligence on a claim and just pay it. We don't get cookies, that's for sure. In fact, we face termination with our employer, fines with the state the claim was handled in, and possible jail time. Oh yeah, and our employer can sue us for the money we paid to the customer without authorization, and if the customer knowingly cashes the check when they know their claim wasn't supposed to have been paid out, they get reported to the federal government for insurance fraud and sued by the insurance company for repayment of the claim. I guess I'll see what he has to say on Monday. My supervisor has been reading my notes and keeping up to date with the claim, and she is going to have a very fun conversation with him. Especially when all the calls exhibiting his bad behavior were recorded. ETA, this is a single vehicle accident where the customer hit a large object in the road that he absolutely should have seen. I won't state the specifics in case he's a Redditor. He did not file a police report, and he wanted to send me photos from the scene of the accident, which took place at night, and became more irate when I stated I need a VIN photo from the sticker inside his driver's side door. Update, not too much going on, which is unexpected. It's been radio silence from the customer, and I don't trust it. I'm expecting a full blow-up. My supervisor called him and left a message yesterday, but he hasn't called her back either. She has informed me that I have her encouragement to put him on written-only communication, and I don't have to answer his calls anymore. She also stated that if he threatens me, which I'm not sure if he will or not, she will get our security team involved, and I can press charges against him with his local police as these are recorded calls. I called the shop today and spoke with the owner. I explained how the rep I spoke with on Friday acted very unprofessionally, and he informed me that the customer had apparently been calling her non-stop on Friday and harassing her as well, because she somehow thought it was a good idea to give him her cell phone number when he demanded it. The owner is an old friend of the customer, you all called it, but he provided this info very freely and stated that after this repair, they aren't friends anymore, and he will blacklist him as the rep I spoke with is his niece. I got the photos, and there were several very thorough photos. It is pretty minor damage, and it is clear that he ran into something on the road. I can't give specifics, but it was a metal object that happened to be laying in the road that got wedged in the undercarriage. They had to pull really hard to get it unstuck, and the shop sent me a photo of the very warped item as well. Redditor Sleuths also called that he has a huge custom item that was not on the policy. It's a bed cover for his truck, but there was no damage to it, and even if there was, we wouldn't cover it if he didn't have an endorsement for custom equipment. I ran this by SIU, Special Investigations Unit, and while they agreed that the customer was acting shady as hell, they don't have enough info to start an investigation, and they stated that since it is a single car accident, we would still be obligated to cover his repairs even if he was lying. There are several states where we can deny a claim if the customer lies about how the accident happened, but sadly, this is not one of those states. I've texted the customer to let him know I got the photos and that I was in contact with the shop, but he hasn't responded, and it's radio silence. Either he's really embarrassed about his actions, as he rightly should be, or he's a ticking time bomb that's going to explode near the end of the week when I'm my busiest just to tell me in detail how I made him lose his job. We shall see. This will probably be the last update, but if anything else happens, I'll be sure to let y'all know. I truly appreciate the support and collective WTF from everyone as it confirms I'm not just being crazy or sensitive. To the one poster who told me that it's my job to handle this sort of thing and I've been trained for it, 1. I have never been trained for this level of crazy, and I challenge you to find anyone short of an orderly at a psych ward to be trained for it, and 2. It is my job to get cars fixed, not to deal with harassment and bad behavior. Let this be a reminder to everyone to be kind to others, especially the disembodied voices on your phone providing a service to you. Update. Customer is mad that I won't change how the insurance claims system works and decides to harass me and 4 other women to try to get his way. I appreciate all the support I have received so far, and I did get a few messages requesting an update. As I expected, the quiet didn't last long, and the customer was indeed a ticking time bomb. The shop got me the info I needed to complete an estimate for repairs, and the owner explained that he expects he most likely will find additional damages that he will contact me for once he knows. He again apologized for his niece's behavior when I called the shop the first time and stated he is no longer friends with the customer. SIU did review the claim and stated that there wasn't enough evidence of fraud, so no dice. I texted the customer to see if he wanted me to issue payment to him or the shop directly. He immediately demanded I call him as he didn't agree to the estimate amount. A bit of info on how the auto claims process works for payment. 1. insurance company creates an initial estimate based on what they can see of the damages. 2. Insurance pays an initial amount to get the ball rolling. 3. The shop and insurance stay in contact so that additional payment can be issued as needed through the process as the shop finds additional/internal damages that might not have been super apparent initially. Sounds simple enough, right? Not for customer. He starts talking about how the estimate from the shop is $7,000 and we are paying $6,500. I let him know that we are happy to work with the shop to issue further payment as needed and explain that shop estimates are based on what they expect to see for the full repairs and insurance pays what they can see and confirm. Not to mention, to keep insurance prices down for our customers, we try to negotiate costs with the shop to ensure what we pay is reasonable. Before I can get 2 words out, he interrupts me and starts yelling, saying how I lost his job and that I'm now denying his claim since I'm refusing to pay the amount the shop demands. I explain again that we aren't denying the claim, but this is the first of multiple payments we will be issuing, and I need to know where to send the payment. I tell him that if he keeps talking to me like that, I will end the call. His response? Of course you will. No self-awareness or apology. Acting like a toddler when he's nearly 40. I continue trying to explain, but he decides to keep talking over me and yelling at me. He starts to say shit about me as a person and my family, and I interrupt and state, "Do you want to finish that sentence for this recorded line for who knows how many people to hear?" He stops, thinks, and then tells me that he hopes my husband essays me and leaves me. I recently got married, and IT is in the process of changing my name in the system. So some of my systems show my new name and some show my maiden name. It causes a lot of confusion, and so I have to explain it a lot while waiting for the updates. I had to explain it to this customer as well, so he knew full well he was saying this to a newlywed. I'll admit, I kind of snapped a bit and left my tour guide Barbie voice behind real quick. I said, "Sir, during this entire claims process, your own attitude has gotten in the way of your repairs. The way you have acted to me, my coworkers, and the employees at the shop is absolutely deplorable, and you should be ashamed. You haven't said a kind word to me at all, and you've been a nightmare to work with. Now you say awful things about my personal life that I explained on Friday was absolutely none of your business when you demanded my cell phone number, and now you insult my husband whom you've never talked to and know nothing about. My husband is 10 times the man you will ever be while being nearly half your age, and he knows how to treat people with respect even if he is in a stressful or difficult situation. I feel awful for your wife if this is the type of man she has to deal with at home. At least my husband doesn't have to force me to have sex with him, but it's telling that is where your mind went to. Maybe you should mind your own home before you stick your nose in someone else's." He threw a few more expletives at me, but I ended the call because I just don't get paid enough. He again called my customer service team and made the poor woman cry. I took the call again and explained to him that he was now on written communication with me. He could call the customer service center, but I would never answer his calls again, and I will only respond to his emails or text messages. I then disconnected the line again. I thought that was the end of it, but turns out that he still had my supervisor's contact info from when she called on Monday, so he called her up. She called me after she finished on the phone with him, and she gave me a summary. He apparently told her that I accused him of SA to his wife after he questioned the estimate that I wrote. I don't write estimates, that's a whole other department. He was trying to find out next steps when I ended his call. She had listened to his prior calls, so she didn't believe it for a second. She put him on hold while she pulled the call and listened. She then tore him a new asshole for what he said to me. He tried to say that I was worse, but she cut him off and explained that I am one of the adjusters in my unit with the highest metrics from customer reviews. I've had my fair share of angry customers and it takes a lot to make me snap, but she stated that his conduct had pushed me to the point of snapping, which she has never seen. She proceeded to tell him that she is enforcing my written contact only rule with him as she had previously encouraged I do that with him anyway, and she stated that if she hears one more call where he is harassing an employee, she will talk with her supervisor to press charges for harassment. Unfortunately, we can't fire him as a customer because he still pays us money, and the executives don't care how we are treated as long as we get more money. I'm hoping this spurs him to cancel his policy and become someone else's problem. I asked if there would be any disciplinary action against me for the call. She said, "Call? What call? I don't see any call. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to delete it if the call wasn't recorded." Basically covering my ass if the customer tries to escalate above her to her supervisor or something. I sent a copy of the estimate to the shop and gave them instructions on how they could request more payment from us, and the customer texted to tell me to send payment to them as well. After our call, he called the shop, and apparently they had a massive fight because the customer then texted me and said, "Send payment to me." The shop just pissed me off big time. So I sent the payment to him, with his lien holder included, so he has to mail the check to them to endorse and cash before they send him a new check, and of course it won't be overnight but by standard USPS mail both ways. I got to close the claim, but I still don't think this is the last I'll be hearing from this guy. I'll provide more updates as they come, but thankfully I don't actually have to talk to him again. Thanks again for all the support on this. It's nice to know I'm not crazy or expected to be a doormat.